Week 14 had everything that you want and some stuff you didn't. Sorry, Cleveland. We'll talk about it all here in a little bit.
You got a team, here's a word to the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to football, guys.
Football. I'm living in a fantasy. Football. Got everybody mad at me. Football. Cause every game I had to win. Football. I gotta be a champion. Football. I'm living in a fantasy.
It is the Audible Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom. 20 years of this thing, and Week 14 rolling right before the fantasy playoffs begin, and the Falcons not rolling because the Seahawks are doing that. 37-9, Sigmund. Sam Darnold, 249, 3 touchdowns, 1 INT. By the way, Seattle's 10-3. Atlanta's 4-9. Zach Charbonnet was 7 for 46. Ken Walker with 10 for 29. Velus Jones, 4 for 32. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 7 for 92 and 2 touchdowns. Rashid Shaheed, 4 for 67. Cooper Kupp, 2 for 35 and 1 touchdown there as well. Charbonnet gets a couple catches here too. And Seattle showing up with their defense, showing up with their offense, traveling across the country to deal out a can of whoop ass.
Yeah, and it wasn't that way in the first half. This game was 6-6 at halftime. By the way, just setting the scene, because it's week 14, final week of a lot of fantasy football regular seasons, and you could feel the change in the games. Like there were snow games, and if there's a game in the South, it was a monsoon game. So you have the angry winter weather coming. You even had the early games by the end of the fourth quarter looking like late games with the sun setting as we're getting closer and closer to the solstice. And it is that time of year. And speaking of that, it looked like it's the time of year that Sam Darnold wilts. He was sacked at the 1 yard line. He threw an interception trying to do stuff that Sam Darnold can't really do, like throwing across his body on the move. I mean, that's great to try, but he actually got it together for a field goal drive right before the end of the half, and then Rashid Shaheed returns the opening kickoff of the second half for a touchdown, and you really felt Seattle relax at that point. Darnold starts zeroing in. It's JSN, it's Shaheed. Kupp gets a touchdown, another touchdown to JSN, and the Clint Kubiak offense is a Sam Darnold offense. The running backs didn't really do much of note. Big surprise, but one that we've been wondering if the pendulum's going to swing back. It certainly doesn't look like it. Even the Kenneth Walker targets went by. Elijah Arroyo got banged up in this one, so AJ Barner in the barnyard formation, he's their tush push guy. That's something, in deeper leagues. JSN had a floor game last week. You're not worried about him now. Not really worried about Seattle. This team can hang, and if you bet on Darnold by taking JSN, if you're Seattle, that's looking like a big win. And now they're facing Indy next week. Boy, that game feels different.
Oh, it does. Spoiler alert. We'll get to that in just a little bit. Let's talk about the Falcons if we have to, because it's Kirk Cousins. I mean, you just don't learn anything from this. Kyle Pitts was 6 for 90. Oh, God. Bijan Robinson, 20 carries, 86 yards. Tyler Algier, maybe was the 60 yards, 67 yards, all purpose for Tyler Algier. Like, there's really just not much to talk about with this team. Wrap it up and change your whole coaching staff.
Yeah, and GM, I mean, how many coaches do you give a GM? How do we know where we're at with Kirk Cousins? It was 4th and 3 in the red zone after they got set up with a short field, and they kicked a field goal. It's Kirk Cousins. You don't trust him on 4th and 3. Nick Emanwari, X factor on defense, also blocked a field goal for Seattle. Cousins did find Pitts open downfield a few times. One of those times, it looked like he hit Darnell Mooney for a long touchdown, but not quite. And then they settled for another field goal. I mean, it's a field goal offense. Oh, there was a Tyler Algier, Dylan Drummond drive, field goal. And Devon Witherspoon blew up a screen pass, doing Devon Witherspoon things. Pitts was good. Bijan Robinson only got 2 catches and fumbled in this game. He was okay, but we're back to floor games with him, with Cousins. Is Drake London really coming back for this on Thursday against Tampa? I wouldn't if I was him.
I wouldn't. Well, I'll give you my own personal take, Bloom. And as I say, get as offended as you like. I'm not watching Red Zone anymore just because it's the beautiful glory, and there's a great impermanence to everything, and I understand that. Corporations, just get us on a podcast talking about the evil of corporations. So blame Disney, blame ESPN, whatever. Red Zone sucks. I was dialed in to Bengals, and Bills.
Yeah.
And snow games are just better. Snow games are just better. Snow games.
Yeah.
Would you rather play in the heat, sweltering heat, or would you rather play in snow? If you're a football player, you want to play in snow. That's what it was made for. And the game that we saw, Cincinnati and Buffalo, epic. 39-34, the final score, sliding around in the snow. Touchdowns taken off the board, touchdowns back on the board. It was awesome. The Bills are 9-4. They get that win. Bengals fighting hard. They're 4-9, and that just may be it. That is it. In fact, they had to win out to have a 90% chance of making the postseason. Now it just looks like one of the most dangerous offenses in the league won't be there. Joe Burrow fighting 284, 4 touchdowns, 2 INTs, and you've just felt so bad for the INTs. His first pick, the pick 6, Bloom, do you think he was throwing and then decided that he wasn't going to throw but couldn't stop it?
Here's my theory, Cease. Here's my theory.
Because of the snow. So
I think it was the cold. I think it was actually the temperature of the air. I think it made the ball like denser. It made the air in the ball denser, and it just made the ball like. So he shot putted those 2 throws.
Yeah, he definitely didn't throw the first one at least.
He didn't look like he had good feel for the football, but he's Joe Burrow, so he just trusts himself even when he doesn't. But he's just reps. This is why Cecil spoken like a true Wyoming football player. And who else was a Wyoming football player? Who else knows how to play with a cold ass football? Sorry, Joe. Josh Allen.
Josh Allen, he does. So let's talk about Burrow and company before we get to Allen. 284, 4 touchdowns, 2 INTs, 1 with that pick 6. T. Higgins back in a big way, 6 for 92, 2 touchdowns. Mike Gesicki, 6 for 86, 1 receiving touchdown. Jamar Chase, 5 for 44. The other receiving touchdown was Chase Brown, 3 catches, 12 yards, 1 touchdown, and then 12 for 23 and 1 rushing touchdown. Samaje Perine leads the way with 31 yards rushing, also a catch for 7 yards. If you have him in as a what the heck flex, but what a game. Just falling short for Cincinnati.
Yeah, see, we could do 20, 30 minutes on this game easy. And it had that sense of a playoff game. And it had that sense of a playoff game because it was mortality. And in all of the great epic chronicles of this quarterback golden age we have in the AFC right now, all these amazing permutations of these matchups, we've only seen Burrow and Allen twice. And one of those, of course, was the Damar Hamlin game. And I'm so happy he's still with us here on Earth. But the other game was a playoff game where Cincinnati just kind of thoroughly dismissed Buffalo in front of their own crowd. See, so it was one of those like, oh, Sean McDermott, is he the guy to get this team there? 15-round title fights, heavyweight title fights, right? Like they shortened fights to 12 rounds for boxing fans. And you don't know what a 15-round fight was like. Well, this was a 15-round heavyweight fight in the snow. Like you said, Cease, in the snow, and you're running Joe Burrow in the snow.
Even after the pick 6, you're like, the Cincinnati can still get this.
Oh my gosh, Joe Burrow. I mean, the incredible will. Cease, you do comic books. Both of these guys deserve their own comic book. I mean, they just have that kind of will here on Earth to do their bidding. And Burrow comes out, has an 8-minute touchdown drive to open. 8 minutes. 8 minutes. How's this game going to go? And T. Higgins playing a big role. Chase Brown, just balance. This is the thing. What did the Bengals learn when Joe Burrow was hurt? Some balance on offense. The pass protection was much better today. And the defense, we'll get to that. They're opportunistic now. Mike Gesicki, not much of a role last week with Higgins out, but this week making some big plays, a catch on 3rd and 11. T. Higgins finishes another drive. Burrow's just taking control of this game right away. There's a pass to Gesicki, a pass interference on a pass downfield to Yoshevich. Right before halftime, Chase Brown catches a touchdown. Overturn the play to a touchdown. And it's just a Burrow maestro performance. Even on 3rd and 18, he just missed. I mean, T. Higgins could have caught the ball. I mean, it was just like everything he was doing is perfect. They come out and an 80-yard drive. Chase is doing more. Higgins gets him in the red zone. The play that Burrow threw to Gesicki on a broken play. It was one of those plays when the timing was all off. Everything was off except Joe Burrow's ability to see through everything, playing in a blizzard at this point, and finding Gesicki on and it sees maybe it was because it was a touch pass. That was just a little touch pass. All he had to do was just kind of lob it. Maybe he just liked how that felt, because then it was one of the most stunning turns you will ever see in a football game. It was on consecutive plays, and it just looked like he just tried to shot put the ball. The ball didn't spin out of his hands. The intention was there, but it was I'm telling you, Cecil, it's the weight of the air. It's just the ball acts a little differently when the air side of it is so cold and the air around it is so cold. Christian Benford tips one to himself for a touchdown. Very next offensive play, it's Jordan Phillips tips it, AJ Epinesa. And at this point, it's like, it absolutely fell apart. It absolutely fell apart for him. And then he gets the ball back, and he gets a 4-play touchdown drive in less than a minute. T. Higgins takes a one-arm catch in the end zone while he's being interfered with, a 25-yard touchdown. All of a sudden, you're like, Burrow's still going to do it? He's still going to do it, right? Because remember, this is a team that's lived through the 13 seconds with Mahomes, right? Is this happening again? He never got the ball back. So, Cease, I figured it out. I know who Joe Burrow is in the great novel of the NFL.
Who is Joe Burrow?
He's RoboCop.
RoboCop.
It's tragic. Piece by piece, he's being replaced, and the mission is still intact. The prime directive, win the Super Bowl for the Bengals. Like, he's still singularly focused on that as they replace him part by part. But it's always going to end in tragedy, right? It's always going to end up that it's not quite enough because it's the Bengals. So Baltimore's coming next week. This probably ended their season, and Pittsburgh winning doesn't help because Pittsburgh has a much easier reigning schedule than Baltimore. They really needed Baltimore to sweep Pittsburgh. So yeah, this probably was the end of their season. What an amazing end of a season. It just shows you. Cease, every Joe Burrow season is an epic, epic tale. It's always like a Russian novel. It's like a tragedy in the end. But just watching him in this game, it's a privilege to get to watch him, and then to see what he brings out in his opponents, even better.
I hope that Joe Burrow gets an opportunity, much like Matthew Stafford did.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that be great? Like Burrow goes and Sean McVay, right? Stafford retires.
That's the guy that got his touchdown. That's the guy that got his Super Bowl. That's the guy who got his Super Bowl.
Yeah, and then he gets him and then takes him and actually wins Super Bowls because you ain't winning anything in Cincinnati. Sorry. It's just never going to happen. Might not ever happen for Buffalo either. But at least today they get that win. 251, 3 touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown for Josh Allen, the big 40-yard run. Almost slipping there. You saw some slips, some slippage. James Cook was even slipping there as well. 18 for 80, slipped his way to 80 yards. And then what do we know about the Bengals? What do we know about the Bengals defense? Well, they don't really play defense, and they don't cover tight ends. And you've got 3 of them things like the Bills do. You're going to use them all. Dawson Knox, 6 for 93. Dalton Kincaid, 4 for 41 and a touchdown. Even Jackson Hawes with a receiving touchdown, doing the snow angel there as well. James Cook had 2 for 31 in this one. Khalil Shakir with a beautiful touchdown. How'd Josh Allen get that pass off to Khalil Shakir?
Right.
With a touchdown. Gabe Davis, a couple of catches. Keon Coleman, you saw. Listen, we love this game, and whatever's going on with Keon Coleman, full disclosure, I loved him at the Combine, love his game, whatever's going on behind the scenes there. But you saw his teammates, because he could have probably scored on that slant, but he gets tackled short. And you saw everyone kind of pat him on the head, like, oh, that's it. That's what we need, man. Come on, great play. It was a great play. It was a kill call at the line by Josh Allen. Only him and Keon knew the play, and it was executed almost to perfection. And you saw the support of the teammates, so we'll see. But anyway, the Bills get a very big win, and now they're scrambling to get wild card positioning with New England out in front.
Yeah, Josh Allen. I guess this is just the fate of Bills fans. You have all of these memories that are just all-time NFL moments. None of them end with the team holding the Lombardi Trophy, but still, the things that we've seen Josh Allen author just in this season. And early on, you had a Dawson Knox, Ty Johnson drive. But Cincinnati makes a stop. It's 4th and 5 at the 8-yard line. Cincy's defense. Come on, it's Joe Burrow. Now they kick a field goal. Sean McDermott, what are you doing? Don't lose this game. Now it's 14-3. And all of a sudden they're having to go for it in the first half at the 45 on 4th and 4, down 14-3. I mean, Josh Allen is already, it's the first half, and it feels like one of those fourth quarter situations. And who does he look to? Gabe Davis. I'll say this. None of the wide receivers of the Bills are going to have fantasy value. I mean, in this game, it was extreme because of how much he leaned on the tight ends against Cincy. But, you know, I'm not going to tell anybody play Keon Coleman or play Khalil Shakir or Gabe Davis or any of these guys. But Josh Allen trusts them. And that's important. That's important. As you see everybody contributing. And that was the drive that ended with the magic trick. It was a magic trick touchdown pass. You know, it's one of those passes that you watch and you say, I mean, it's just, again, like I said about Joe Burrow, it's a privilege to get to watch Josh Allen play football. And then Cincinnati gets another stop. And at this point, you know, the Bills have had 3 first half possessions against Joe Burrow. This is not looking good, folks. But Allen comes out in the second half, big third down after a sack, and they get a pass interference. Dalton Kincaid scores a touchdown. Now it's 21-18. Okay, we're back. 3 and out. You know, still 21-18. They get the ball back. They drive down the field. James Cook on this drive from about the 24 almost scores, but fumbles the ball out of bounds at the goal line. But there was a holding call anyway. And they get back down to the goal line. And it's still fresh in everyone's mind. I mean, the announcers are talking about it. And Cook, he doesn't quite try to extend the ball, but he wasn't practicing ball security that you would have expected at the goal line after what had just happened on that very drive. He fumbles at the goal line. Oh, my God. He fumbles at the goal line. And of course, they come right back, and now it's 28-18. And just you're playing Joe Burrow. What do you do if you're trying to run for a 40-yard touchdown? And like you said, see, some of this is the Bengals defense. But, you know, Josh Allen breaks free, and then they get the turn of events on defense. And then they get a touchdown on 4th down to Jackson Hawes. Now, Burrow scores. This game is still very much in play, and Geno Stone sacks Josh Allen on 1st down. Oh, my. Is Burrow going to get the ball back? No. All Josh Allen does is scramble for 17 yards on 3rd and 15 to finish this one off. Whew, was it good for you? Man, I mean, you know, this is what it feels like when you have truly great with a capital G quarterbacks playing with the sense of this could be our last game, that mortality. And, you know, if that's where we're at, Cease, in week 14, I mean, I can't wait to see where we're going.
Yeah, can't wait to see, because you just never know. Can't wait to see what the future holds for Shadur Sanders. Now, they don't get the win. Tennessee getting the win, 31-29 over the Cleveland Browns. Titans are 2-11. Browns are 3-10. This is a battle of the number 1 and number 2 pick. Oh, wait, no, it wasn't. The number 1 and 5th round pick. But who looked like a number 1 overall pick was Shadur Sanders? I want to kind of skip the Titans so we can talk more about Shadur. Yeah. But let's give them their due. Cam Ward, and I like Cam Ward, full disclosure. And I think it was our buddy Ian Hartitz. I quote him a lot on the show, Bloom. Mm-hmm. He said, "Isn't it just like fantasy football for Tony Pollard to have 162 yards against the Browns defense? It's tough." Right. You know what I mean? We did a preview show. We talked about this game. We did talk about Tony Pollard, but none of us were saying like 160 and a couple touchdowns. Like, make sure he's in your lineup. Fantasy football. She is a wicked mistress. But let's talk about Tennessee so we can go on and on about Shadur.
Yeah, and Cam Ward, I mean, what you like seeing in this game, Cease, is we're seeing teams that are going nowhere. And you love seeing the fight in both teams in this game. And Tennessee, a costly win. You know, we get those in December, scoring 31 points on Cleveland. But how? You know, Chimere Dike had a return to set up, and Spears had a catch and run on 3rd down. Ayomanor gets a touchdown. Ward does throw an interception to Devin Bush. Of course, Devin Bush is playing well for the Browns after the Steelers traded up for him. Pollard gets a long touchdown run. Van Jefferson throwing a key block. And then after an interception, Pollard gets another touchdown. Dylan Sampson fumble, short field. That's when Chimere DK gets a touchdown. They had a punt block, special teams contributing, a field goal. And then at the end of the game, the Browns had a chance to send it to overtime, and Kevin Stefanski shot himself in the foot. Tony Pollard, contained otherwise, but they rode him because he was hot in this game. And now the Giants could have the number 1 pick. Whoa. At least they do as of this moment. Tennessee heading to San Francisco, and Cleveland's defense was still good, but Tennessee took advantage of every opportunity because it is the Browns.
It is the Browns, and nobody should be really surprised that Shedeur Sanders looks like this. One, it's Tennessee and their defense, so we'll get that out of the way. Like when he looked good against the Raiders a couple weeks ago, right? So let's get that out of the way. But Shedeur Sanders has always been an advanced passer. He always has been. He's not much of a runner, but you did see him run for a touchdown today. Had 364 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 INT. Ran for 29 yards. Quinshon Judkins only had 26 on the day. Harold Fannin, he loved throwing to him. 8 for 114 and a touchdown. Jerry Jeudy, 3 for 76 and a touchdown. David Njoku with the other touchdown, just a catch, just a yard, but a touchdown. Dylan Simpson with 5 for 64. And then Quinshon's helping his day. I'm not saying saving his day, but helping his day. 1 catch, 58 yards. So that'll do. That'll really do. But this conversation about Shedeur and taking him off the field for the 2-point conversion, we got a lot to get to. I'm looking more big picture with Shedeur. Like he should not have been a 5th-round pick. I think that is very clear. He's always been an advanced passer. There are limitations with his game, mainly moving around. But if you give him time, he can slice you up. He's got elite pass placement. He always has. None of this is a surprise. Maybe it's a surprise to Kevin Stefanski, though, who still doesn't seem like he wants Shedeur to play or be successful.
Yeah, that's the weird part, Cease.
This is so weird. Have you ever seen
a
staff almost actively set up their quarterback to fail?
No, and Cease, I mean, you even saw like the Titans, their celebrations were really directed at Shedeur Sanders, even when it wasn't Shedeur Sanders' fault about the turnover. And it's Dion. I mean, let's face it. And you directly addressed this on our show a few weeks ago about, Shedeur Sanders is in the shadow of Dion, and it's not fair to him. But at the same time, maybe Cecil will create the crucible that will forge him. And will the Browns be the organization that actually benefits from this? No, it'll probably happen in a different organization. But you saw in this game, at least Quinshon Judkins had a 58-yard catch and run. Otherwise, he would have been worthless in a game that we thought he was going to be very good. Tennessee does have 2 giant defensive tackles, but still, David Njoku catch touchdown, hurts his knee. He's going to be a free agent next year, by the way. That's interesting. He could be a player who has a revival in a good team, with a good team, not the Browns. They get a field goal. Fannin makes a catch after the Bush INT. Then you saw, and see, I think that, a couple of the quarterbacks, and I'm not comparing Shedeur Sanders to these quarterbacks in terms of the outcome of his career, but the throw he made to Jeudy was very much like a Tom Brady, Matt Ryan throw. And what I mean by that is there's windows, there's accuracy, and Matt Waldman talks about this. There's completion accuracy, but completion percentage doesn't give a true picture of accuracy in the sense that there are windows you can throw a ball into that tell a wide receiver where to go and make a touchdown. And this one was one that was like almost hyper accurate, where all Jerry Jeudy had to do was just run through the catch and nobody was going to catch him. And it wasn't a long pass. It was just a perfectly timed pass, hyper accurate to get the lead touchdown. But then you saw, he's a rookie. They punted 3 times, and then it was one of those making an interception out of a play that didn't need to be an interception. Didn't even need to throw the ball. So he's slipping. They punt. Dylan Sampson has a fumble. There's a block punt. I mean, that's 7 second-half possessions where everything's falling apart, and yet he leads a touchdown drive on a scramble. By the penalties. These are bad teams still. Cedric Gray face mask penalties on each of the last 2 drives in the red zone. Second touchdown to Harold Fannin, who, I mean, I was wrong about him. His athleticism, whatever. His athleticism translates because he's just a player, because he's just a dog out there skying for a touchdown. And then, like we said, sees 2-point conversion. He just led 2 touchdown drives, 2-point conversion to tie the game. He's not even on the field, and they call a gadget play. I mean, fireball offense. I don't even know what that means, but the team played for Shedeur. So Stefanski should be fired. I mean, what's the next coach going to think? Because I think that it's not just the Browns cease. I think it's just the perception of Shooter Sanders. Maybe his play on the field can change that. Maybe players and what he does behind the scenes with players can change that. But hey, for fantasy now, I mean, that was a massive game. He's playing at Chicago next week, but you can see, hey, there's definitely something there. And like you said, he shouldn't have been a 5th round pick. And you feel for Myles Garrett, who's had a sack. He's 3 sacks away from the single season record, because one of the truly epic, like, archetype generational players. That word's thrown around, but Myles Garrett is a generational player. His career is being wasted on the Browns.
Sounds about right. So much to get to. It's Minnesota and the Commanders 31-0. A couple of shame on you moments in the world of fantasy football, or the world of the NFL. We could say it's Daniel Jones, and we could say it's Jaden Daniels. I mean, what the hell, bro? You knew he was gonna try to secure. If he fell on the left side, he's gonna try to secure himself when he falls with his arm, like, I don't know, all of us do. And that's just not great, Bob. So I guess you can talk about the Washington side if you want. They're 3-10. The Vikings are 5-8. JJ McCarthy had 3 touchdowns. Right on. 2 of them to Josh Oliver and 1 of them to TJ Hawkins. So helping fantasy GMs not Justin Jefferson 2 for 11, right? Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason got a rushing touchdown. Jones was 76 yards, I guess. Okay, 31-0. Let's go shame for the Commanders. We're gonna do the same thing with the Colts anyway, but let's do this whole thing condensed, because baby, this one's ugly.
Yeah, it was really ugly. And I think for Washington, what really stands out is, wow, how much things can change in a year, like how they were feeling last year versus how they feel right now.
Yeah.
And you look at Dan Quinn, the first drive was a good drive, but they couldn't score after, they ran on first down to the 2-yard line. There's a play where they're supposed to throw to the offensive tackle. I think that he was kind of open. Daniels hesitates. On 4th down, they go for it. Deebo Samuel got his hands on the ball, but, and next thing you know, it's 14-0 because their defense isn't very good. And a couple of punts, and then Andrew Van Ginkel. Don't throw screen passes if you see Andrew Van Ginkel out there. Okay, he tips a screen pass, very much like the Christian Benford play in the Buffalo Cincinnati game. And then that's when Daniels gets hurt. And then later on, Zach Ertz tears an ACL, and he's emotional. I mean, everything's falling apart, and this is you question Cease about Grateful Dead. Maybe you got too much too fast. Shakedown Street. Because Dan Quinn's supposed to be a defensive coach, and Jaden Daniels and his aura, got this team to the NFC title last year. But where are they now? Minnesota maybe had more of an ethos in this game, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, pretty damn crazy. Anything on Minnesota?
Oh, sorry, Minnesota. Yeah, sorry, I was doing my normal rhythm. It was the Dan Quinn's zone defense, right? Like basically he made it easy, right? It was like the practice test the teacher gives you for the real test. McCarthy was throwing to the tight ends for touchdowns. There was a 98-yard drive after that stop. So it was good. McCarthy was scrambling, throwing a Naylor, throwing to Addison. Jordan Mason's running the ball well, and Aaron Jones is running the ball well. There's some potential because this team has Dallas, the Giants, and Detroit. And see, so if we had seen this game earlier in the year and recontextualize it as he's developing, we say, oh, this is a step. This is a stair step, right? It was a bad defense, but he ran the offense well with some command. He looked confident. But because it happened, all the bad games are behind us, and we feel like, well, whatever, it doesn't matter. Well, we'll see. But then Justin Jefferson, McCarthy looks good. Jefferson's not a big part of it. Awkward. And, you're really thinking about next week. It's Dallas. You're like, am I going to sit Justin Jefferson against Dallas? Maybe.
Yeah, just maybe. Maybe. Maybe you need to check out footballguys.com. And, of course, if you want to support the show, that's the best way to do that. We've done this for 20 years. All thanks to footballguys.com. So you want to support the show, you love the Audible, then go to footballguys.com. You can go get our Football Guys merch. Perfect for any fantasy football player for a Christmas gift. So we thank you for that, and thank you for checking out footballguys.com. We are here for you. Miami and the Jets is the next game we're going to talk about. And again, we got some stinkers this week. And Miami side of things, 34-10. So there's another stinker for you. Jets are 3-10. Dolphins are 6-7. The old Ricky Waters for who for what, but for Jalen Wright and Devon Achane, right? 24 for 107 for Wright, a rushing touchdown. Achane 7 for 92, a rushing touchdown. Ollie Gordon, a rushing touchdown. Jalen Waddle 5 for 50 and a touch. Greg Dulcich 3 for 41. Darren Waller 1 for 13. Achane also had a catch. But they roll. Miami Dolphins roll in this one, and they're winning. What is it now? A 4-game win streak?
4. Yeah, Mike McDaniel saved his job. I'm pretty sure. I mean,
ownership in Miami is terrible. I don't know.
Here's why I think so. So Dan Graziano reported this week that, now people around the league think that Mike McDaniel could save his job. Looking up ahead at the crop of, coach possibilities, not that exciting. And now that you win again, and again, now this team has an ethos, just running the ball. Thankfully for Jalen Waddle folks, he got his touchdown early on. And Devon Achane looked great, left with a rib injury, saying it was more precautionary that he was held out. So we're going to watch that. Pittsburgh, by the way, get to play spoiler against Pittsburgh next week. Greg Dulcich is catching passes. So Darren Waller's not actually worth as much now because they're not throwing the ball more than 20 or 25 times a game when they're competitive, and they were competitive. But the other story here, Jalen Wright, after Achane goes out, even before Achane goes out, getting more work than Ollie Gordon. And, Jalen Wright isn't a guy that you look at, kind of like Achane, built for a 24 carry, 170-yard game. I think that's those numbers. But he showed he could do that. So if Achane misses time, now we're looking at that in a dynasty or long-term view, right? Moving back ahead, maybe more exciting prospect in terms of that speed. Because how much did Tyreek Hill really matter to this offense if they can find this mode and make this work like they have? We'll see. Again, 4-game winning streak against the Steelers. Oh, Cecil, why do I feel like the Steelers are going to blow that?
Well, isn't that what they do?
Yeah.
Jet side, wouldn't it have been nice to see Breece Hall like competing for a Super Bowl or competing in the postseason if Kansas City or Denver would have traded for him? Instead, we got to watch him on the Jets do what? I have no idea. Are we really going to talk about Brady Cook?
Right.
Auntie Chill, Mason Teller, 551. Okay. Breece Hall, 14 for 43, but wrap it up, baby. Wrap it up.
It is.
Oh boy. Ugh.
Yeah. Terod Taylor, and there's some bad playing surfaces because of the weather and the cold, and he slipped on the first play. Maybe that's when he got hurt. There's an interception a little bit behind Mason Taylor, and Tyrell Dodson squeezes it between his knees for the interception, and then Taylor's out with the groin. So whatever. Justin Fields, I don't even know if we're going to see him. Doesn't even matter. This offense is DOA. Even Breece Hall now. Next week it's Jacksonville. They're pretty hot on defense right now. Isaiah Williams had a punt return touchdown.
Ooh.
What a mess. So yeah, John Mechie and Adonai Mitchell thinking maybe have something. No, somehow this team won 3 games too. You looked at this team. This team should be the number 1 overall pick the way they looked in this game, but it's hard when you win 3 games.
What in the hell happened to Tampa Bay? Did they get shucked? Tyler Shook, right out there making plays for the New Orleans Saints. 24-20, the final score. The shocker in Tampa. Bucks are 7-6. The Saints are now 3-10. Let's talk about Tyler Shook. 144 yards, no touchdowns, 1 INT. But Shook with 2, count them, rushing touchdowns. You also saw Devin Neal 19 for 70. And a rushing touchdown, along at 21, so 3.7 to carry. Hard-fought yards there for one Devin Neal. Devon Bailey, 3 for 40. Juwan Johnson, 4 for 38. Chris Olave, 3 for 30. Neal also had a catch for 14 yards. But, yeah, this one at the end, Shuck looks like he's down. He's not down, everybody. Yeah. And the Saints aren't out getting this win.
Again, I'm down here in New Orleans, Cease, and my good friend Uriah Zane Hunt, V313 Pizza, and he's like, hey, you think, Saints, maybe they got themselves a quarterback? I mean, you see these road wins and in the division, and you wonder, we all agree Tampa Bay is a pretty good team. This is now a win over Carolina. That means he beat whoever's going to win the division. Shuck, I guess being down here in New Orleans makes sense that Shuck with the oysters and everything. Right away, Mason Tipton gets a kickoff return to set them up. Devin Neal caps. This is a a good run defense, but Devin Neal gets a touchdown. They miss a field goal. It moves the offense. They miss a field goal. It's a kicker problems. There's a miscommunication on a long ball interception. So, you could have easily seen this game get away from him, but no, a 34-yard scramble for a touchdown. And he did run a 4.63 at the combine, but both of these touchdowns he had, it just looked like, if you could imagine yourself, like, no one's going to tackle me. Like, I'm
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. it was really wild to watch. Even Audric Estime is getting in. Devin Neal running the ball well, chewing up some yards. They made a 4th down conversion. Tyler Shuck actually made a read on a 4th down play. Like, the original read wasn't there. He caught someone open on the backside of the play, but Cesar Ruiz, because the play took so long to develop, was downfield. That was down in the red zone, so they had to take a field goal there. But then, Tyler Shuck making a play to Olave on 3rd and 10, shrugging off defenders. Two massive guys, like, completely had him. I don't know what happened. It was one of the Saints plays of the year. 3 scoring drives. This was a rain game, by the way, a monsoon game. And he was moving this offense, and the Saints defense did their part. So you get a win. And with every win, they move further up in the draft order, maybe to make it more difficult to take someone who would take Tyler Shuck's job next year. And now, again, fantasy-wise, I'm not holding this against the passing game because it was bad conditions. You saw Devin Neal, Alvin Kamara's not going to be. I mean, just, the Saints are a live team. They're playing Carolina next week, so they're going to figure into how this division works out. As now Tampa Bay, the margin of error is gone.
Yeah, it's very small for one Baker, the baby maker. 14 of 30, 122 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 INT. Chris Godwin, 5 for 55. Okay. Emeka Egbuka, 2 for 15. Ouch, town. Population, you, bro. Bucky Irving, 15 for 55 as a runner. And then as a receiver, 2 for 26 in that beautiful receiving touchdown. Rashad White, 11 for 53. Sean Tucker, 7 for 29 rushing touchdown. Baker, by the way, also had 42 yards on the ground, benefiting his fantasy day just a little bit. But you've got some problemas here for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, you had an early Bucky Irving touchdown catch. Godwin set it up with one of his patented short catches that turned into a long gain. But then, they go for it on 4th down near midfield, and Irving stopped like 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Irving gets them back in field goal position after an interception, but again, just field goal position. There was a miscommunication. Cameron Johnson, why are you throwing to Cameron Johnson now that you're starting to get people back in the passing game? But they did. You then see this offense get back to running the ball, because remember, this was a really balanced offense last year, even though Mayfield put up big numbers. Tucker and White, actually not Irving, playing the bigger roles. Tucker gets a touchdown. Okay. This is a 17-17 game. It looked like they convert a 4th down, but Chris Godwin bobbles the ball as he's going out of bounds, so they don't get that. But they get they have another chance. Emeka Egbuka drops what would have been an easy touchdown, and they have to settle for a field goal there. And then on the final drive, they couldn't even get out of their own end. Cade Otton stopped short on a 4th and 4. And that was it. That was the last gasp. So, it's conditions. Baker's a little banged up. They're playing Atlanta on Thursday night. Mike Evans could be back. I mean, I still think this offense can be perfectly fine. Not the great offense that look they could be. But, we're going to see them play Atlanta. But the 2 matchups against Carolina in the last 4 weeks, let's get it on.
Let's get it on. And by the way, windows. Egbuka can have another window.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
It's not his window now. Mm-hmm. It's not his window now. Okay, Bloom. We made it. We made it to this game. And listen, Indianapolis, what are you doing? And Daniel Jones now with an Achilles injury out till next year. Okay, let's talk about this. 36-19, the final score. The Colts are now 8-5. Jacksonville's 9-4. Daniel Jones goes down, and Riley Leonard comes in. Jonathan Taylor gets 21 for 74, rushing touchdown. Riley Leonard also had a rushing touchdown. Alec Pierce, 5 for 80. Michael Pittman, 9 for 79. Josh Downs, 4 for 23. Tyler Warren, 2 for 15. That's a mistake. Let's get into this, because that's an exciting team. That's a team that's pushed their chips in, obviously. And that's a team that's probably not going anywhere.
Yeah. Just sickening, really. I mean, it really made my stomach turn watching what happened to Daniel Jones. And for the Colts, I guess they did steal the team in the middle of the night, but they picked Peyton Manning over Ryan Leaf, so they got a Super Bowl for their trouble. Saints got a Super Bowl at their expense. And now it just feels like torture. This is another one that's just it's like Cincinnati, a torture. Early on, Daniel Jones, Devin Lloyd makes a really nice. This is another rain game, another monsoon game, by the way. Devin Lloyd makes a beautiful play, like springs up to snag a short pass over the middle right away. They're down 7-0 off of that. Daniel Jones is a fighter, though. A good drive, spreads the ball around. Tyler Warren actually had a carry inside the 5. Jonathan Taylor scores. Trevor Lawrence is playing better, more on that in a second. Daniel Jones gets the ball back, and you see him drop back, and you see him step awkwardly, and you see him go down, and he knew it. He knew his Achilles. He knew it. You saw him, and Daniel Jones is not, and I know he's been the butt of jokes on the show, and I know for fantasy, at times it's been easy to just dunk on him, but he's made it through some bad stuff in his career to really find himself, and he was showing mental toughness. I mean, he was the only reason they were in the game last week against the Texans. A very tough Texans defense. He's playing with a broken fibula. Okay. And it just was sickening.
He's a hell of a competitor, man. Let's say what we will about him, past, future, whatever. He's a hell of a competitor.
Yeah. So it was just sickening. So, and of course, remember, Anthony Richardson can't play right now because a resistance strap hit him in the eye and broke orbital socket, something. So this is where the Colts are. This is like the quarterback curse of the Colts, I guess.
It's ruining Andrew Luck. And by the way, full disclosure, we'll probably disagree on this. Anthony Richardson's not helping you win anything.
Probably not.
No, definitely not. He's limited as a passer.
Yeah.
He hasn't learned or developed. And the physical skill is off the charts. Like, he's an 11 when we talk about physical skill. It doesn't matter if you can't throw from the pocket.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. So, at that point, Riley Leonard wasn't. He showed some fight too. He converted a bunch of third downs. They eventually had to just settle for a field goal though. And then Schultz-Tootin fumbled. More on that in a second. Jonathan Taylor gets stopped on 4th down. But you saw Leonard throwing the Pittman. Pierce did enough with both quarterbacks to be solid. But how did it go after Jones went out? Well, they gave up a safety. And there was a garbage time touchdown that was to Pierce that got reversed. Eventually Leonard got it on a scramble. So, next week they're playing Seattle. Daniel Jones, will he even be ready to play at the beginning of the season? He's going into free agency. Minnesota was looking at Daniel Jones. How does that change their plans? This, and then for Indy, the playoff picture now changes for a Kansas City or a Houston to be able to get in, because that's just not going to happen now. But let's not let this overshadow what Jacksonville showed.
Exactly.
Liam Cohen. I can't even say it. I can't talk. Liam Cohen. Duval. He's got some junkyard dogs. He's got a team of junkyard dogs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you love to see it, man. You love to see it come together. Trevor Lawrence playing better, as you mentioned, 17 of 30, 244, 2 touchdowns, no INTs, also 16 yards on the ground. Travis Etienne, 20 for 74, 2 rushing touchdowns. There is Brian Thomas Jr., 3 for 87. There's Timmy Pats, 5 for 78 and a touchdown. Jacoby Myers, 4 for 39 and a touchdown as well. Brenton Strange, only 3 for 27. Oh, but Jacksonville, you have to feel damn good about your 9-4 record and your positioning now within this division.
And, they control the division. They're in the driver's seat. And what's interesting about this team, Cease, is they're wily. They're just, they're a little twitchy in this way. It actually kind of fits the part of Florida that the team represents. And I mean that with love in my heart, of course. Jags fans are some of the best football minds I know. And you saw, right away, they had to punt. Okay, they get an interception, lights the fuse. Brian Thomas gets a catch down inside the 10. Etienne scores. Next drive, Brian Thomas gets another catch. Brenton Strange gets a catch. Jacoby Myers gets a touchdown. Then after a fumble, Etienne scores. They're taking advantage. They're turning these moments, inflection points in the game, and they're crystallizing them into the plays that determine the outcome of the game. You had a really good 2-minute drill by Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence looked much more in command of the offense. You didn't see as many Trevor Lawrence errant passes, or just what was he thinking? Tim Patrick getting a long play, almost got a touchdown, and got it anyway with 7 seconds left in the half. And you like seeing that with that clock winding down, Trevor Lawrence can still keep his wits about him and make a good decision. Second half, Thomas to Lawrence. I have it backwards. It's working, whatever it is. For fantasy, that might be coming on time. Jacoby Myers threw a pick on the Brenton Strange touchdown. So if you had Brenton Strange in, you had a touchdown, but they caught Myers with his hand in the cookie jar. The game was over, though. Bracial Tootin with that fumble, by the way, it looks like it's going to be ETN, much more ETN, if this is any indication. And Jacksonville has the Jets. I mean, again, this team's in the driver's seat right now, and I know we have some great quarterbacks in the AFC. Trevor Lawrence isn't one of them, but this team has a lot of ways to do damage.
Yeah, a lot of ways to win, and that can make them dangerous when it comes to postseason time. Somebody from the AFC North is going to make the postseason. It's probably the Pittsburgh Steelers. Beating up on the Baltimore Ravens today with Lamar Jackson being hurt. I'll go Shania Twain on you, Bloom. That don't impress me much. So let's talk about it. It's time for you to be a neurotic Steelers fan. 27-22, the final score. Rodgers 281, 1 touchdown. Also, you see Rodgers there with a rushing touchdown. Kenneth Gainwell 4 for 15. Why am I talking about that? DK Metcalf 7 for 148. It's working. Jalen Warren also had 3 for 49 and a receiving touchdown there as well. So let's talk Steelers side here. But at the end of the day, just kind of checking in with this game during the Broncos game.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler alert. Because the Raiders are completely checked out. So I was checked out, and I was checking in on the Steelers. I was like, does this even matter? Neither one of these teams can do anything when they make the playoffs.
Yeah, but Ravens Steelers has been one of the great rivalries. It really peaked around like 07, 08.
It peaked when we'd watch it together, and Troy Polamalu would jump over and sack Joe Flacco, Jack Flacco, whackety jackety Flacco. Like, oh, dude, it was so epic. And that's why, like, I guess I'm not necessarily disgusted, but this game and these teams just pale and clear. You mentioned it at the very top of the show, Bloom. The week 14, there's a separation beginning. But then teams like Baltimore and Steelers, they're slap fighting, and you're like, you can't do anything when you go to the playoffs and face a New England or a Denver or on the NFC side, a Rams team. Like, okay, slap fight away.
Yeah, well, hey, Steelers did beat the Patriots, but I'm not going to be neurotic for a moment because I do think that we should take a moment to point out that this was the 38th meeting between these two coaches. Only Hallis versus Lambeau. That's the only matchup that we've had more than Harbaugh against Tomlin.
That's significant.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's one of the archetypical rivalries, right? I mean, the Ravens-Steelers games are intense. It feels like one of those games, like a college rivalry where it's like what you remember isn't where you finished in the rankings. Even in Michigan, they're like, well, Ohio State won the national championship, but we beat them last year, right? It's that kind of game. And it was 21-16 Tomlin coming into this one. So spoiler, it was 22-16. But 29 of the 38 games have been one-score games. I mean, most of the Ravens-Steelers games between these two coaches have been one play. You flip one play, which could be any number of plays, and you flipped out. This one was no different. But this cease was Aaron Rodgers' entry into the book. This was Aaron Rodgers entering this rivalry. And remember, with Aaron Rodgers, you just got a sense like he just wanted to play football. And yeah, this is football. Ravens-Steelers game, this is some blankety blank football. And Aaron Rodgers, it would look like Ben Roethlisberger says, just let Aaron Rodgers like do his thing. Well, guess what happened? He started throwing the ball downfield to DK Metcalf down the sidelines, and DK Metcalf made plays. This is why you trade a second-round pick and pay him. They actually did it, Cease. They actually did it. Throwing downfield. Connor Hayward, the tush push worked. Rodgers ran in a touchdown. Aaron Rodgers ran a race to the pylon and won it in this game. Kenneth Gainwell was the red zone back, by the way. He gets a touchdown on this one, and it really looked like he was more like the dedicated red zone back. Adam Thielen caught a pass. On 4th and 2 in the red zone, they were going for on 3rd and 2 a Metcalf touchdown almost. Metcalf also had some almost touchdowns in this game. On 4th and 2, they take the field goal, and then Travis Jones commits a personal foul. So like this is where it's not great football, right? They get to keep the drive going, and they get the touchdown, and then they open up, and then you have a play. You got a long, beautiful touch pass to Calvin Austin, and then a play where it was an all-out blitz, and the Ravens defense just lost Jalen Warren. They just lost him, and Warren had a nice long catch and run touchdown and then it's Aaron Rodgers. That's Aaron Rodgers and his veteran poise. And Aaron Rodgers was good for fantasy in this one if you played him in a 2-quarterback or a superflex league. But then it turned into a classic Mike Tomlin ending as the Steelers opened up a somewhat comfortable lead. 3 punts. They did at least let Aaron Rodgers throw the ball on a 3rd down, but one of the throws on 2nd down, it was a pass that got batted to him, and he caught it and got like trampled, and they thought it was maybe an interception. So that Mike Tomlin at that point was like, we're definitely not doing anything risky with the ball. So it was tight, but this, there's some offensive improvement. DK Metcalf involved. This team is in first place, and they have a much easier schedule from here on out. Again, they play Miami next week. Baltimore plays Cincinnati, but we'll see. It's just 1 week, but for this 1 week, I actually was cheering for Aaron Rodgers. Cease.
Odd.
Yeah, it felt weird.
Yeah, it does feel weird. Ravens are now 6-7. Yay. Oh boy. I've often said once you reach a certain age, like I can't say fire, you know what I mean? Like some of the young cats I work with, they're like, that's fire. That new Taco Bell Baja Blast pie is fire. I can't say that. I'm too old. For us, Bloom would be like rad or something from the 80s or 90s.
Noah says adults. Noah says adults trying to be cool is like really uncool. So,
and that's what 6-7 represents. Yeah. So thank you to the youth. Thank you to Lamar Jackson for trying. He looked a little better, Bloom, but we both know he's not 100. He's not right. He's not 100%. 8 for 124 for Zay Flowers. Isaiah Likely. Let's pay Mark Andrews for whatever reason.
What was that?
I hope Isaiah Likely winds up in Denver. Full disclosure. 4 for 25 and a receiving touchdown there. Derrick Henry, 24-94. Lamar Jackson, rushing touchdown. Passing touchdown, as I mentioned, 219 through the air. Let's talk Baltimore side here.
Yeah, and it was a valiant effort and one that could have been a winning effort.
Like Valiant Thor.
Yeah. Zay Flowers, the Steelers just kept losing track of him. So, Jalen Waddle next week, I mean, if you can find time, you can pass downfield on the Steelers. But you also saw the Steelers, this is kind of the opposite. The Steelers are a plucky upstart kind of team because we watched lots of Steelers teams in our early adulthood that would win 80 or 90% of the plays, but lose the 10 or 20% that they lost so bad that they would lose the game. But it's the Steelers actually getting those high EV plus or whatever they call it, value added plays. As you saw, James Pierre with a tremendous leaping interception, very athletic play on Lamar Jackson. They sack Lamar Jackson, Brandon Eccles, sending a defensive back. You saw poor Malik Harrison, who is a former Raven. So 2 Steelers linebackers that are former Ravens in this game. Malik Harrison, Patrick Queen play big roles in this game. Well, with Malik Harrison, it's just more of an indelible image. Malik Harrison knocked himself out tackling Derrick Henry, like just trying to tackle.
Sounds about right.
That's the kind of game it was. It's Ravens Steelers, baby. Steelers defensive penalties helped. It was 17-3 1 point. Steelers defensive penalties helped 2-minute drill that Lamar Jackson finished with a scramble. So that's that's Lamar Jackson things. And then Keaton Mitchell breaks off a long run. He's good. Isaiah Likely finishes it with a touchdown. And then there's a drive where Derrick Henry, Rashad Bateman, they're moving down the field. And this game is tightening up, and Keaton Mitchell gets hurt again. And you really saw when Rasheen Ali was out there, when the Ravens don't have that change of pace. Rasheen Ali is just not the kind of athletic back that Justice Hill or Keaton Mitchell are, and it really bogged down the offense. But it doesn't matter. They get down in deep in Steelers territory again. Rashad Bateman drops a 3rd down. So they have to settle for a field goal. So all of these mistakes, again, this wasn't one where a team necessarily rose to the occasion. It was the Steelers outlasting them because yet another opportunity. Zay Flowers, Derrick Henry converts a 4th down, another field goal. Now this is it. it's do or die time. Zay Flowers is making plays. Lamar Jackson finds Isaiah Likely in the end zone. It looks like a touchdown. He catches the ball. He makes like almost 3 steps. But Joey Porter plays through the ball. So he says, "Why teach you play through the ball? Play through the ball. Play through the ball." Just, the Mike Tomlin's like, Mike Tomlin's on the sidelines like, "That's why we teach it that way, because you got to finish the catch even in the end zone." No touchdown. 4th down now. And Henry was stopped for a loss on 3rd down. And then they go to Mark Andrews. And look, Patrick Queen kind of had a little hold on his waistband. But, them the veteran tricks, baby. That's how you win. Mark Andrews also still isn't that athletic. It kind of looks like an own goal now when you saw what Isaiah Likely has done and what Andrews has done in the last few weeks. There's a reason that Isaiah Likely is getting more targets. So Baltimore is now in a survival game, and they're going to have a lot of these. They still have Tampa left. They have New England and Green Bay left on their schedule. So it's uphill from here on out for the Ravens.
It is uphill. By the way, our guy Frazier says, "Is Valiant Thor the name of the supposed alien in Washington, D.C. in the Kennedy days?" Yes. Watch the Y Files. It's one of my favorite YouTube channels. Everyone's getting the year end, like Spotify, whatever. I think my favorite YouTube channels were Denver Sports, Football Guys, the Audible, and I think Mspiracy and the Y Files. The Y Files made my top 5 as well. So shout out AJ Gentile. Once in a while, you'll see me do the "Be safe, be kind, know that you are appreciated." That's an outro from his Kempo teachings and also his outro on the Y Files, WHY, the Y Files. They did a great episode on Valiant Thor, and yeah, there might be a time traveling alien that's wandering around. You never know, Bloom.
It never occurred to me that there wasn't.
That's the perfect Sigmund Bloom answer.
Yeah.
That's the perfect. You're in full stride.
I am actually Sigmund Bloom. That's how I did that.
That's how he does it, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Audible. We got 3 games left. 20 years of this thing, and we appreciate you all very, very much. Fantasy football has grown and developed so much that we've been doing this. We've been talking for 20 years on the Audible, many years on video. I can't remember which year we started on video, but the old Google Hangouts, right before we went straight StreamYard, and of course right here to YouTube. We appreciate that. Oh, Jason Potstoner Degenerate says Hecklefish bong rip. I so want a Hecklefish like talking doll toys. Anyway, I'm getting off track. I guess I could get on track talking about the Broncos over the Raiders.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jason, our Raiders fan there, Potstoner Degenerate. Fire up your bong because your Raiders lost. They're 2-11, and they've totally checked out. This game wasn't even really close, although 24-17. And by the way, a last-second field goal. This is what I hate about sports gambling and the impact on this game, Bloom. And don't tell me there's no impact, because there is. But I hate this stuff because I want the integrity of the game to be saved. The Raiders kicked a last-second field goal for no reason. But the reason being, I believe the spread was 7.5 or whatever. Again, guess who's not the gambler amongst us? And if you gamble safely and legally, I don't care. I'm not going to tell you what to do in your own household. All I know is my gambling, I suppose, is on the stock market or in my own company and in myself. But that type of stuff pisses me off. That type of stuff really, really pisses me off. I didn't have any money on this game, of course. But it's just like somebody did, and somebody's pissed because the Raiders kick a field goal at the last second. I'm complaining. You could talk about whatever, Bloom. Know that RJ Harvey, I think the biggest takeaway here is a few things with the Broncos. The Raiders stink, whatever. But the few takeaways with the Broncos is, one, since the bye, and even one game before the bye, they have pretty much put Troy Franklin in a back seat, which is good. That's where he needs to be. And once in a while, target whatever. They were targeting him way too much. The fact that we got to the Kansas City game in week 11 and Bo Nix had targeted Troy Franklin more than Cortland Sutton, it's ridiculous. One, Franklin's not there yet. I don't care about the chemistry from college. It wasn't working. You need to target Sutton 10 times a game. They did that today. So Sutton came through. Evan Ingram had a big game against Commanders. Had a bad game this time. Okay, so that's not been solved. But the Sutton thing seems to be like what they're doing. That and Pat Bryant is taking the snaps. Now, he's a blocker, but he's taking the snaps away, as is little Jordan Humphrey, Sean's favorite, from Troy Franklin. So it's 4 targets for Bryant. It's 4 targets for Franklin. But little Jordan Humphrey also got 3 targets. So that's something to talk about. RJ Harvey, 17-75, and then a rushing touchdown. This is who RJ Harvey needs to be. Follow your blocks, kid. When he follows his blocks, it works. And then, sometimes take what there. You can't dance. Matt Waldman will always say you can't go to the corner store. RJ didn't do that this time around. But again, the Raiders suck. They've totally given up. I mean, basically after their first drive, which is the first opening drive touchdown the Broncos have allowed this year. So good job, Gino. So talk about everything, Bloom, including the Raiders, if you have some observations there.
Yeah.
But this is very limited. I do 4 hours of radio a day, Monday through Friday. I'm going to be struggling to find 4 hours worth of content on Monday because this game doesn't really tell you much. The Raiders have laid down. They have laid down. You could see the lack of effort across the board.
Yeah, this was a game, we saw this matchup on a Thursday night like a month ago. It was a 10-7 game. And then both teams scored on the first drive. Ooh, this is going to be different. Maybe this is going to be no, it's not going to be different. It's basically just going to be an exhibition, So Nick's underwhelming. Harvey, at least in PPR leagues, there's your hit. Marvin Mims with the punt return touchdown out of a crowd. I don't know what happened there. They had some long scoring drives, just matriculating the ball down the field, just the way that Sean Payton likes it. And they're the number 1 seed. And, we're going to see how they measure up against Green Bay. I mean, that's going to be a good game, I think, to get a better idea of where this team is because they are the number 1 seed right now. With the Raiders, it's just sad. This is one of my biggest whiffs this year because I really thought that Pete Carroll's energy with Chip Kelly bringing back what he had learned, Geno Smith showing that, hey, the Seattle offensive line wasn't doing me any favors, Ashton Genty, I thought there might be something. There's nothing. So they're going to play, I don't know if it's going to be Kenny Pickett against Philadelphia. I mean, that's kind of funny if that happens.
What would our friend Vic Fangio say about that matchup?
Yeah, every day.
I'll take that every day. Chicago and Green Bay is the next game that we are going to talk about. And at least we have some takeaways from this one. Again, not much to take away from Broncos Raiders there. But let's talk with a couple of games left. It is Chicago 21, Green Bay Packers 28. The Pack is 9-3-1. Stupid ties. The Bears are 9-4. Caleb Williams, 186 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT, 19-35 passing. DeAndre Swift, 13 for 63 on the ground. Kyle Monangai, 14 for 57 on the ground. Luther Burden, 4 for 67. Cole Kmet, 2 for 42. Colston Loveland, 4 for 29. And a touchdown. Alameda Zacchaeus, 2 for 7. And a touchdown. Where's DJ Moore? 1 for -4. Oh, God. DeAndre Swift, 3 for 19. Help his day in PPR leagues. Bears falling short in this one. This one on Green Bay. Full disclosure, obviously, I'm watching the Broncos game, so I didn't get to see this one, Bloom. What did you see from the Bears?
Yeah, and again, we mentioned earlier in the show that Hallis versus Lambeau is the all-time coach matchup. I mean, this one has a different energy than college rivalries because it pre-existed most college rivalries. This was the third game, 1 versus 2. What a wonderful constellation we saw today. And certainly, Indy Jacksonville wasn't a thrilling game, but it was a meaningful game. Steelers Ravens meaningful still, and this was meaningful. It's just a slow first half for Caleb Williams, as you expected, in Lambeau against a very good Green Bay defense. But then you saw in the second half, and I don't know how. And just another quick aside, by the way, Ben Johnson versus Matt LaFleur. This is the new guard. 2 guys that have really established themselves and stepping out of the shadows of their mentors to in and of themselves. We might be talking about their coaching trees one day, but you see, the offense wasn't really clicking. It was Caleb outside of structure. It was just that idea, build the whole plane out of the black box. Like Caleb, when he can just kind of freelance because he has to, now you're seeing things start to happen. An unbelievably tight window throw to Olamide Zacchaeus in the end zone. Colston Loveland had a touchdown, and he got them right back to tying, but Keyshawn Nixon did have an interception at the end of the game. But this is, and for fantasy, nobody was really good. That's how it went. It was Green Bay. You kind of expected that. Now, next week, again, they're going to play Cleveland. So, we'll see how that works out for them from a fantasy perspective. But if you're a Bears fan, you felt good about Caleb Williams rising to the occasion. You felt good about them once again playing some of their best football down the stretch to stay in a game that is going to really be one. We'll see how it all shakes out. But Chicago, it wasn't quite the resounding statement of Liam Cohn's Jags, but this is a first-year coach team saying, yeah, we're going to Lambeau and we're in it to the last play. But you also are seeing that Jordan Love, he has some mettle. He can lead a team through the wilderness.
Yeah, and get up for contests where everyone's Caleb versus Jordan. Okay. Well, what can you do, kid? At home, Jordan Love goes 17 to 25, 234 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 INT. Christian Watson, 2 of them things. Did he do the gritty? Did I see that? He did the gritty. Nice. 4 for 89, 2 touchdowns. Bo Melton, 1 for 45 and a touchdown. Was he a Texas guy? Jaden Reed, 4 for 31 in this one. Luke Musgrave, 2 for 22. Josh Jacobs, 20 carries, 86 yards. 1 rushing touchdown. Jacobs also a couple catches there in PPR format. So, yeah, they did it. Now they got to play Chicago again, this time on the road.
Yeah, I mean, now they got to play Denver next week, and that's not ever fun. But Jordan Love's making the throws, and really, they had control of this game early. Now, CD Deuce, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, still, what a character he is. He's like one of those heels in wrestling, even to his own team eventually. But he makes a big play that kind of swings this game. But Christian Watson's making plays. Josh Jacobs running so hard in the second half. Bo Melton making plays. Remember, Melton is the wide receiver who was turned into a cornerback, but then because of injuries, back to wide receiver. Well, guess what? On one play, he had to play cornerback. And Tom Brady loved it. I mean, I will say, Tom Brady said, I think if it looks like it's going to be an interception, you pull the face mask. It's just a 15-yard penalty. I love that. I mean, I will say, you don't often hear me say something I love about Tom Brady, but hearing him as a color guy say, oh, no, if the ball's in the air and you think it's going to be an interception, you grab the face mask. You do whatever you do. That's a quarterback talking, right? Tight ends are involved making plays too. Romeo Dobbs, and no catches. So, now that you're seeing Dontavian Wicks, he had that 1 week. So Christian Watson, I mean, there's your number 1 receiver, and Josh Jacobs and his physicality as a runner. Still nothing is guaranteed to anybody in this NFC playoff picture right now, but you have to like these battle-tested wins. You have to like Christian Watson, by the way, is a downfield threat, number 1 receiver for this team and for fantasy. This is a guy that wasn't even drafted in fantasy leagues and now has a chance to be a wide receiver 1 down the stretch because Jordan Love is playing well.
Oh my God, is Nico Collins over 100 yards in the middle of the first quarter?
Shh, you're going to Cecil him. I bloomed Burrow today, by the way. I called it the snow game. I did bloomed Burrow because I said this is going to be called the snow game with EAUX because I'm down here in Louisiana. It's the LSU. And then I should have never said anything.
Shh. You don't say it. Rams and Cardinals. How about we say that? We talk about that game, which I guess it's a game. I'm using air quotes. 45 to 17. Excuse me. As the Cardinals are 3-10, the Rams are 10-3, and Stafford goes 281, 3 touchdowns, no INTs. Puka Nacua 7 for 167 and 2. Colby Parkinson 3 for 32 and 1. Devontae Adams 4 for 29. Oh, but if you had Blake Corum 12 for 128, 2 rushing touchdowns. Corum also had a catch. Kyron Williams 13 for 84 and a rushing touchdown. Kyron also had a couple of catches. So there you go. Rams making it look easy, beating up on the Cards.
Yeah, I mean, this was the game that was just like, it made sense. First 5 drives were field goal, touchdown. Blake Corum looks tremendous. This running game looks tremendous. Kyron Williams, they're going to preserve him. They said this week, hey, we're going to preserve him. Dan Graziano getting that scoop for us. And that means maybe even a little more Corum going forward, and Corum showing you what he can do against defenses that are geared up to stop Matthew Stafford. They can't stop Puka Nacua. Yeah, Devontae Adams, I think, was overthrown or missed on a potential touchdown, but you had some 2 and 3 touchdown games from him. This was Nakua's turn. Colby Parkinson got a touchdowns 4 and 5 games. And the Rams, this is boring. Detroit next week, maybe that's not boring.
Maybe it's not boring. And then the Cardinals, Kyler Murray's done for the year, and they need to move on.
Yeah, and Jacoby Brissett, I'll just take it from here.
Sure.
Garbage. Well, it's all garbage time, right? I mean, he hung for a little bit. This game was like 10-10 or something like that. A McBride Wilson drive. Michael Wilson, the number 1 receiver, with Marvin Harrison out, Greg Dortch out, and had a massive game. This is like a Drew Bennett from Billy Volek kind of run right now that these guys are having, if you remember that in fantasy football, but not the running backs. And we've seen Jacoby Brissett now 8 straight games. I think he's been a quarterback 1. Next week, he plays the Houston Texans. So good luck with that.
Well, because you said Billy Volek and Drew Bennett, I am contractually obligated to say this. When there was message board versus staff for football guys on the old Yeller days, and they did a league where it's like, we're going to pick people from the message board, and they're going to play against our staff. And I said, I'm going to get picked. And I was.
Mhm.
And I said, I was Rebel 34. And so I said, I'm going to get picked. And I was. And then I said, I'm going to win this thing. And remember, I did. And I said, you guys are going to hire me. All three of those things happened because guess who had Drew Bennett and Billy Volek?
There you go.
To
See,
win
why
it
didn't you
all.
say, and there will be world peace? Why didn't you say that?
I missed my 3 wishes. I missed.
Yeah.
But I've worked for football guys for 20 years. So I hit on that. Sorry
Yes.
about the world peace thing. What is it on Forrest Gump? Sorry about messing up your Black Panther party. Like, sorry. Is he smart or is he like me? Well,
Yeah.
Bloom, I guess we all can hope and pray for more, right?
Yeah. So, it's just in closing, I mean, this was, again, those 3 games that were so anticipated, so intense. And I want to say always again, like, these players risk everything for all of us, for our entertainment every week, so let's never forget that. Like, I mean, it was Daniel Jones, man. Like,
Ugh.
I really hope that people honor what he did for his team. And we're only going to get more intense from here on out. So the emotional resonance of the NFL right now is like coming through your TV. And then the other thing I want to say is, there's so many people that I keep in touch with, that people I first met, like the handshake was the Audible, that they knew me from the Audible. And it's a beautiful thing. And see, this I think originally comes back to our relationship, right? Because I think in our relationship, there's this sense of like when we found each other and talked on the phone for 3 hours about the NFL draft, there's this sense like, you get me, Oh,
Yeah.
does this
You
make sense?
understand me.
And there's so many people.
I'm not weird.
Right. Or even if I'm not weird, at least if I am weird,
Somebody else is weird with me.
somebody else is weird too. And there's so many people that have reached out to me and people, and I can just, it's so kind. Like, I can feel in the communications, like they're telling me, like, I get you. And I just want everybody out there to know, like, if you're listening to the sound of my voice right now and you feel that way about me and the time that you spend hanging out with us, and you feel that way about Cecil and the time you spend hanging out with us, we feel that way about you too. I mean, just, write a blank check spiritually. Feel that love, because it's the love of this game that gathers us together, but it's the love of each other that has made us keep coming back for 20 years. Love we have for each other, but also for all these wonderful people. And it's a community that keeps on giving.
It is simply fantastic. We are the Audible. He's Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on all the socials at Sigmund Bloom. I am at Cecil Lammey, saying, and because we brought up the Y Files, you really have. I'll send you one of the best episodes of the Y Files. You'll like it. Because AJ debunks. He takes the conspiracy theory and then he debunks it as much as he can. And some you cannot debunk all the way. So I'll finish it like AJ Gentile does on Y Files. Everyone out there, be safe, be kind, know that you are appreciated. And also my public service announcement, Bloom, you're wearing your Krampus hat. I will say this. Everybody's missing somebody during the holidays. I have a funeral to go to this month because losing my uncle to cancer, one of my uncles to cancer, F cancer. I'll say that. I don't even have to say sorry, Joe, because Joe's right there with me saying F cancer. Everybody's missing someone during the holidays, and always be mindful of what others are going through. You're never alone. Never alone. So please reach out. Sigmund and I are there for you. Reach out, social networking, however, and we just appreciate you. We appreciate humanity, man. Let's go rock this thing. Let's be good and go be safe and happy and all those sorts of good things. He's Sig. I'm Cease. Thanks, everybody. Stay tuned, and would you please stay frosty?